Well, welcome to the Crazy Wisdom Podcast. I've got Tommy Alvarez, and he is the CEO and founder of TurnOn Financial Technologies. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Stuart. I'll be looking forward to it.
Yeah. We're going to talk about business. We're going to talk about finance. We're going to talk about horses and polo as well. Very excited. I've been seeing you post horse photos on LinkedIn, and I love it. I should post more. I should post more polo. I got some great ones this last weekend from playing polo, and now I'm totally addicted. Let's start with the TurnOn Technologies. What is TurnOn Technologies?
Well, TurnOn Technologies is a behavioral finance operating system. It's a very unique platform. There's no other alike. It can solve a lot of in the finance industry, in the merchant industry, but also in the consumer area.
Cool. And so merchants, finance. I watched a video you sent me. What is Float? What is going on with Float? What's the deal there?
So Float is, are you familiar with a gift card, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So technically, when a consumer purchases a gift card, that money technically it does not belong to the merchant yet, right? It's the client's, but it's in the custodian or in the custody of the merchant until into the exchange product or service for their float.
Oh, wait. Okay, wait. So I buy a gift card. That's a transaction, but it's not a full transaction where the money goes directly into that person's account. It goes into an escrow account.
Internally, they should have a liabilities right account, which is not theirs yet, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of merchants get into muddy water there because obviously they use it but not use it, and yeah.
Yes. And this is how a lot of tech companies, basically. So, for example, Braintree Payments or Venmo or all these different tech companies, they all kind of arise. I think Robinhood was another one where they arise, where they sort of find this ability to take money, not necessarily like what you just said, but to create a business out of it, right? Because there's certain things that happen once you congregate a lot of money in one place. Is that right?
Correct. And then the interesting part is that when you want access to your money, if you want it quick, right, there's more friction that involves transaction fees and payments, so you can have access to your cash, right?
And okay, cool. So there's this float thing, and you guys, what are you guys doing with this float for?
So in this case, for example, Starbucks last year they had around $15 billion go to their gift cards, right? That's a lot of money, right? But at any given time, they had 1.9 billion in float.
1.9 billion in float. Interesting. And so they've got their sitting there. Oh, but they don't do anything with that float because of this liability thing.
Correct, but they do earn interest on it.
They do earn interest on it. Interesting. And this goes into our conversation where we're talking online about how every company is a bank now. So Facebook has this just sort of $1.9 billion in this float account, and we're there. I'm sorry, Starbucks.
Yeah, that's correct.
And they've just got this sort of thing, creating money for them in this account, but they've got 15 billion that's going through different gift cards. Okay, and then I might have interrupted you. So what are you guys doing with this?
So we developed the decentralized portion of that concept, right? So instead of using it just for Starbucks, we have a custodian float that you can use it with any merchant.
Cool. Okay. Custodian float that you can use it with any merchant. Interesting. So, okay, I like this. So there's like one little niche where you've kind of owned basically where you can allow the same thing that Starbucks has figured out to do, because Starbucks has their own internal lawyers and all these different things. You figured it out to offer that same thing to merchants. Is that right?
Correct. So in this case, if I give you a gift card for Starbucks, let's say I send you $100, you can't use it anywhere Starbucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Interesting.
Starbucks is money, right? Or Starbucks is your money.
Yep.
You can't even go to a movie theater because you get a commercial saying buy movies in advance. So they want your money too, right? So in this case, instead of sending a gift card for Starbucks or the Regal Cinemas or whatever, you can send a TurnOn gift card, right? But you can use it at any in our ecosystem merchants.
Very interesting. So there's all these. So okay, interesting. So you are essentially selling gift cards as well.
It's considered, yes, not just a gift card. It's a credit to merchant.
A credit to merchant, interesting. And so you're going to build basically a community of merchants who all sign on to your platform so that they can do this, but digitally, basically, in order for their customers to come to this to no, because a merchant sells to their customers. What's going on there?
So we have universal flow that's applicable to anybody that's in our ecosystem.
Interesting. Okay, cool. To anyone in the ecosystem. Okay. And so what are you most excited about?
Well, we have a very unique funnel. First of all, that's never been done, right? Every single person that we talk to, and it's taken us, if I tell you 5, 10 different, law firms to go into every little thing, right? There's a set of rules and guidelines of what people work in fintech. And sometimes they can't think too much out of it, right? It's just that little sandbox and that's all they play with. But it takes somebody with a different type of vision to come and say, wait, why haven't you guys done it this way or that way? And they're like, I don't think you can do that. I'm like, well, can you find the answer? Yeah. And then the first thing they say is, no, you can't because of this. And then I say, well, what if you do it this way and this way? And then the first thing is like, oh, I guess you can do it that way. Like, but you're the expert, not me.
And I mean that's what lawyers do. Lawyers, along with IT professionals, their job is to essentially say no. And the entrepreneur's job is to essentially say, well, I get it, I get why you said that, but also how can we do it in these different ways? And I also like what. So, is there any sort of crypto involved in it as well, or is it purely financial? Yeah.
Right now it's purely financial infrastructure. We do have the tokenization and some crypto involved in the back end. We don't want to touch it yet because it opens up like kind of worms at this point. Yes, right.
Yeah.
A lot of people in fintech, the only thing they could think about is open loop. An open loop means by whatever credit you have there, you have a MasterCard, Visa logo, whatever it is, and you get a PIN card, a PIN number, and you extract credit from your wallet.
Okay, so in open loop, so there's a credit, there's a PIN card, extra loop. What is closed loop then?
Closed loop, you cannot convert that into fiat.
Oh, interesting. Okay, interesting. Oh, interesting. Wait, you can't convert it into fiat, meaning that there's a separate system outside of fiat that's only within businesses, basically.
In our case, it is, right? So for example, Starbucks, right? You have credit there, you can never extract any from
I gotta
ever.
Yeah.
You have to spend it.
Interesting. Got it. Okay, within Starbucks, it's a closed loop, but you're creating a conglomeration. I don't know a better word to say it. Where you're creating a market where there currently exists no market.
Correct.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Very cool.
A lot of fintech people are not too happy with it.
Yeah. Interesting, because it's essentially a way. Well, is it interoperable with the Starbucks closed loop system? So is there any railway between the Starbucks one and TurnOn?
There should be some collaboration because essentially every merchant in the future is going to say, well, we want to accept Visa, we want to say MasterCard, we want to say whatever it is, but we also want to accept TurnOn.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So it's more of a play at a Visa or a MasterCard, essentially.
Technically, but the way we load our cards is proprietary, and it is ridiculous. And I'll talk to you that about an off camera, but there's technically, not to sound pompous, but nobody can touch it in that area
Because you have patents and such.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Okay. So a payment rail. So is it something that can be you? So what can you flesh out the merchants more about the merchants? Do you have any merchants on the platform? What's going on in that?
Yes, well, we have over 10,000 people, well, close to not over close to 10,000 signed up for our beta test coming March.
Very cool. Okay, so you're releasing in March for the beta test, and okay, so I got a much better sense of what it is going on. How many different places are there, or how many like? Because fintech, it's so interesting because fintech has existed for a while. Back in 1990s, we had PayPal. PayPal would allow sort of like was the first tech company to come in and try to like take over some of the Visa and the MasterCard. But the Visa and the MasterCard, those guys weren't too old either, right? Like, because it was just in the 1960s and 1970s that they started to get sort of allow for anyone to use this thing called a credit card in the United States. And, I'm down here in Argentina. I'm in a lot of places, so I understand that there's like the rest of the world works very differently. Argentina is rapidly becoming a huge credit market. And so there's and in the 90s, the PayPal was this first tech company to come in and say like, well, can we do electronic payments? And then there's a whole bunch of people who tried it afterwards as well. But there's sort of like a contentious relationship between, finance in New York and tech companies in Silicon Valley. And it's been that way for a while until probably I would say 2010, 2015. And all of a sudden, like, it's just like the large finance companies in New York had to contend with the fact that technology is changing everything. Was that an accurate analysis of the history? Was there anything to add? Anything?
It is, and the interesting portion that, that I run into this past 8 months is that there's a lot of outsourcing, right? And nowadays everybody outsources everything.
Yeah.
But in fintech, it's very weird because there's a lot of neobanks now, right? And essentially, what they are, in my opinion, without offending anybody, is they're just a outsourced digital teller for better US.
They're an outsourced teller with, and a teller meaning somebody like a teller in a bank who is on your app.
Like yeah, that instead of going to a bank, now they have an app. They have better UX, better design. Like, but they're not the bank. They're just the front because they have to be backed by a licensed bank in the back.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah, that's really interesting territory. And you've just gone through this whole thing of like discovering all of the nitty gritty about how regulations really work in one of the highest regulated thing, because it's like finance and then medical stuff. Those are the two highly most regulated consumer facing things, right?
And not just that, it's highly regulated, highly competitive, and the open loop space.
Yes, yes, yes. And so you found this little place, yeah, that in this niche where nobody's looking at it because essentially it is so arcane.
Well, not just that. You talk to fintech people, and as soon as you mention the word gift card, they almost like look down on you.
Yes, yeah. Why?
I'm like, take the name off and can call it closed loop.
Yeah, okay, I like that. But it's also a huge market, right? Like gift cards are a huge market.
Humongous market. Humongous. Okay, look, Starbucks itself had 15 billion go through it last year.
Just one company. Interesting. I'm going to look up the market size right now. Um, so according to the Google AI, it's $1.2 trillion is and projected to surpass 2.7 to 3.8 trillion by the early 2030s. And that's just like that's AI, so it can't be trusted, but it's probably big. It's probably really big. And it's really funny because that's like the crypto thing is really interesting. The crypto connection is really interesting because it's like that's what everybody's trying to do in crypto. Like what is the utility token? I mean, there's utility tokens. There's the actual like financial payment rails, which Ethereum, Solana, Bitcoin have created. But then like, what would you do with programmable money? Well, if you're a business owner, there's some sort of gift thing that you would do. But it's also, and this gets into a conversation we could have about the regulation that crypto's about to go through, which is like now it's everything's on the table. There's no more capacity for the DOJ, or I mean not just the DOJ, there's the CFTC, the all the regulatory bodies who have just been going after crypto for the past 10 years, and it's been this just sort of crazy way, and now it's opening up. So there's a whole bunch of regulation that is going into it. But this gift card is really interesting because it's just like this giant market. No, all the fintech people, because this like it gets into territory that can be difficult to talk about, because 2008 was such a corrupt event that essentially like no one went to jail. There's no accountability, and it just sort of is there, and like nothing's changed except for Glass-Steagall, or no, was it Glass-Steagall? No, Glass-Steagall was the earlier one, except for the Frank. There's a bunch of regulations that happened in 2008 in response to this to try to make sure it never happened again. But since no one was ever held accountable, the system just like merged and created all these loopholes in the regulation. What do you think about that? Where like there's like, yeah, what's going on there?
So I talk to very smart fintech people, right? And smart doesn't mean applicable smart, right? So as soon as I talk fintech and tell them what we point out that is obvious, it's obvious, it's right in our face, right? Their ego gets offended.
Yes. Interesting. Can you talk more?
Yeah, of course, and their ego gets offended, and they feel like it's almost like a jab to their intellect, because they do this.
They didn't see it.
Yeah,
They didn't see it.
but and instead of embracing it, there's this tech bro nuance that and if you're not from there, and if you're not playing their game, they don't want you around,
Yeah.
right?
I buy all of that.
And as an operator, like you're there to solve friction, right? You look to lose friction, eliminate friction, and get a badass company. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Right. Now, in regards to the system, right? Sometimes they want to, I don't want to say they, but sometimes the system is over complicated for no real reason, just to keep people out.
Yeah. Well, and it also could just be no real reason, right? Like it could just be a change to the system, like what you're talking about. You're finding this thing inside the system, and that just exists as a byproduct of a whole bunch of regulatory changes that have happened in the past 15 years. And there's just this thing that nobody sees. I'm trying to think of other good examples of it outside of finance, but even in finance, I'm sure there's a bunch. But like would Uber make sense? Like the fact that like, I mean, ride shares, there's a whole bunch of people who saw ride shares happening. But it's just like an externality that can be investigated, right?
And they're literally 1 degree away from the aha moment. Like you're just 1 degree angle from the aha moment, right? And then they're like, oh, it's not going to work until it works. And they're like, oh, I always knew it was going to work. So when an engineer is building an engine for efficiency, they have to have a conversation with the driver. There has to be, right? And a lot of fintech things are made without the consumer in
Well, that has to be right.
Yeah, and they're like, there's a lot of people who want to build something for the consumer, not understanding the blueprint or the sandbox of fintech.
Yeah. And this has been something really interesting. I really like Mercury. I use Mercury for my banking, for my startup, and Mercury is great because they have somehow managed to reverse the entire last 40 years of a bank who building software. Like I compare it to my credit union, and the credit union is just horrendous. Like I'll give a great example. I go into the website for the credit union, and it wants me to answer 5 security questions. And those 5 security questions are completely ridiculous because it's going to ask me something that'll change. Like if it were to ask me, what's your favorite color 5 years ago, or what's your favorite food? It's like, well, that might change. Like how am I supposed to know? And then it just goes. And so like the UI prevents me from actually entering the thing without answering those questions, but I don't have to answer those questions and so Mercury essentially created this whole platform for banking, which is like everything is where it should be. Every little button is there and everything like that. It's just the opposite, right? And so They built something, I guess, for a consumer because it's a very open banking. As long as you have an EIN number, you can go and get it. So I really like this opinion. But FinTech itself, this is the regulated environment where it's just like it's regulated to the teeth in order to protect consumers, but at the same time, it's not really serving consumers at all either. And so let's go more into the merchant side. And so the merchant, is that your customer? Is the merchant's your customer, right?
Both merchant and we have merchants and consumers. We give it's a working first, the chicken or the egg. But a quick note on Mercury, right? I love Mercury. We also work with Mercury, but I believe they just applied for a banking license, right? Because they were the neobank that I was talking about. They were just the infrastructure on the teller side, right? And then they had to go back in and back with somebody else.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay, so
They aligned and the ecosystem.
Yep. So you've got you've got consumers and you've got the merchants themselves. What do you do for the consumers?
Well, give more value. So we have a very unique marketplace within our wallet. If and every business model that we have and every expert that's been working on this, right? If we start getting every single gift card out there because we have a option to what to go spend and not just at Starbucks, right? In essence, why would you get a ABC's gift card only?
Mm, interesting. Yeah, yeah. Oh, got it, got it. Okay, yeah, great. So the reason why consumers would want to use you is because essentially they can do the same thing, but you've created this market where no market exists, so it allows for liquidity where there's no such liquidity beforehand. And so do you see any challenges from people like Starbucks or things like that where there is this essentially like there's a threat there to that, $1.2 billion?
Yes, absolutely. Unless I bring my own coffee.
Yeah.
And not just that, in the merchant process, I don't know if you're familiar with the POS systems, but there's another hidden industry in there. And technically, the POS system is your first partner with no skin in the game in any business.
Wait, can you explain more?
So any business, it doesn't matter if your product, service, medical, industrial, I don't care what it is, the common denominator from all of them is money, is cash, right? So every single business, either you're a teacher, a tutor, yourself, Bibles online, whatever it is, you're gonna have to deal with cash, right? So that's a common denominator. That's where we fall in, right? So that's a good industry to be in, and the common denominator of every business in the world, money. Yeah. So when you have a POS system, it doesn't matter what it is, if you're a restaurant or a car dealership, if you have how to swipe a card, right? You have a POS system and there's processing fees, network fees, interchange fees, all included in one fee, quote unquote. But little do they know, but they're going to take money off the top before you get your money.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Okay. I got that problem right in my head. And I would like to hear what you're about to say, but essentially like the Stripe takes 3% of all my transactions. And then I go look at what the stable coins are doing, and I'm like, oh man, like in my transactions with Argentines where I pay them in stable coins, I'm not getting charged 3%. I'm getting charged like whatever, like 0% on zero on optimism on the optimism chain. I'm getting charged zero. Like there's the Coinbase fee. I guess the Coinbase fee is also there as well. And that like is Stripe a POS? It's a POS system, right?
It is, but at the same time, they're also so in the POS system. In the POS system, you have SaaS, where the consumer has some type of software to manage the business, right? And usually that's just added value, so you don't change the POS. Like use me, but I'll give you the software. Oh, by the way, the software is good. I'm gonna sell you a monthly membership for the software and double my fees, right? And 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 Stripe is more than just a POS because they also help with like the KYC. the capturing of it, the capturing of data. So a lot of people who are in the POS system still use Scribe for certain stages of the process, right? Not all of it, but so it's like Michelin being able to build cars, not just tires, right? But if you're a car builder, it says, well, we still want to use Michelin as tires.
Got it. Okay, that helps me understand Stripe a lot better. And so, but then there's a giant market for point of sale. But not only like that's why they call it point of sale. I get it. Okay, because there's a machine there that essentially enables the point of sale, and then some of them use Stripe because Stripe allows them to do all these other things. Basically, did I get that right?
Yes, and 3% is actually very good compared to some of the scenarios I've seen. 8, 9%. Yeah, yeah.
Whoa. For what?
For accepting payments. So it couldn't, because for a Stripe might be like, for example, 3%, but if they use Visa charges another percent, MasterCard a different one on American Express. So when it comes to a total, right, you're like, God, if you have anything over, I don't know, $500,000 in revenue and everything came through credit cards or debit cards, that's a big payment, 8% off the door.
Yes, no, it's totally crazy. In all for facilitating a transaction, digital,
And,
right?
and if you want your money quick, which is your money, I'm going to charge you more.
Yeah, interesting. So there's a question of where TurnOn Technologies fits into what we were just talking about. Because are you going to also be creating a point of sale? I mean, because there's the hardware of the point of sale, and then there's all the other things that we were just talking about like payment enablement.
We're not interested in the hardware, right? That we already have conversations with POS companies who have hardware included, and they have software, which they opened up their software EOS, where we can interface with them and work with them. So this company, let's say this one company alone, in the US has 15 plus thousand clients. They said, when you do your beta, we'll add it to ours, and automatically my 15,000 clients will accept TurnOn payments.
Got it. Interesting. Because they're on their point, it's like they're as long as it's not regulated. I imagine like is the point of sale very regulated industry?
I want to say yes, but not really. It's all about so it's regulated in two things: KYC, with the know your client, right, and AML, anti-money laundering. That's the main two, right? And you want to know, you want to be in that space. We have a certain gray area, but my compliance team they're savages. Why? Because even though we're another bank, we need to treat it as well.
Interesting. Okay, well, so because there's KYC and AML, and that affects the point of sales, but the entire ecosystem we're talking about, where does banking begin and end? Because like in order to get a bank, that's where it's like really intense to do that, right? You need to become a bank like Mercury. It's sort of like there's an intense regulatory hurdle. Like finance is huge, right?
Yes. Yes. And that's the thing when it comes to open loop.
What do you mean?
Open loop is very regulatory when you can get money out.
Oh, got it. Interesting. Okay. Oh, interesting. That's because it's all about a government and a nation state all having its borders around it. And here I can give some interesting insight from being in Argentina, which is that Argentina is such an interesting place because it is part of the West, but it has also experienced the decay and corruption that the rest of the West has up until now sort of avoided up until about 2008. And so they were just much earlier on the train of just a bunch of challenges. So in the 1960s and the 1970s, that's when the decline started much more intensely than anywhere else. And so they needed the IMF, and the IMF went and basically did bailout after bailout after bailout. And Argentina is the largest by far receiver of IMF. And it's because this sort of like, well, they're Western, they're like a brother, they're like a brother who kind of like went off and did this crazy stuff, but we'll still support them because they're our brothers and everything like that. And so it just kept on going and going and going. As a part of that, in the 90s, they needed to essentially establish capital controls. And so they are the most intense in terms of getting money in or out. of pesos. And recently, the U.S. actually went in and gave them $20 billion. No, I'm sorry. They with U.S. dollars, they bought Argentine pesos in order to keep the economy afloat in the same way that the IMF was doing and stuff like that. The reason I'm bringing this up is that Argentina has essentially tried in the 1990s and in the 2000s and 2010s to keep all the money inside. And that just kept on because of the digital world that we're living in was impossible. It was totally impossible. And now Argentina is the largest physical U.S. dollars, the largest amount of physical U.S. dollars outside of the United States. There's just tons of United States dollars, and they're all hidden in the grandmother's mattresses. And the young people, that's why there's such an interesting crypto scene, is because all the young people were like, oh, I get why Bitcoin exists. I'm going to buy Bitcoin in 2013. And so they understood that. Instead of hiding their dollars in the mattress like the grandmothers, they hid it in Bitcoin. And it can, with Bitcoin, can freely transact with anyone else in the world on a mesh network. Like there's no problem with that. And so what I just got from what you said is that that's the open loop versus closed loop. That's why the open loop is so regulated, is because it transforms it outside of that system that in the 2008
back to cash, right? And that's a big issue because it's a big issue for the consumer because your money is eroding not just by inflation, but it erodes every turning transaction. I revert it back to digital cash. Everybody starts getting a piece of it, and then you're taxed like crazy, and it's just like being a business.
Whoa, interesting. Yeah, because oh man, that just gave me a whole new insight into the financial system.
Let me give you a little bit more insight. So you go to Starbucks, right? You have your gift card. You have $100 in their credit. They probably have it in the escrow account or a liables account. They're there. They're not in operational yet because they haven't earned that money yet, right? But it's in their care, right? Okay. Yeah. So you spend money. Let's say you spend $100 and they just transfer this 100 to the other account, right? And it didn't go through that system.
Wait, it didn't go through what system?
The BOI system.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. Oh, so it's a way of getting around all of the POS transactions and everything like that. There's just a whole bunch of, they skipped all of those other money flows. Are interesting.
People tell me, when people in FinTech tell me, oh, this is nothing new. Like, you're not understanding. Like, we're not the right partners for you.
Yeah. It's the follow the money thing is so interesting because it's true. It's so true. If you just follow the money, but what you just described, I imagine took you a long time to understand. Is that right?
Well, I yes and no. I grew up in the finance industry, and for a while there, I was working for at private equity guys who did a lot of small loans to businesses and dealt with a lot of that. And actually, a lot of their initial line of defense for lending was to do a merchant loan, right? And merchant loans is like a payday loan for a business. Horrible.
Oh, interesting. Whoa. Whoa. That's okay. Because you told me about merchant loans beforehand.
Yeah.
Interesting. So it's like a payday loan for a business, and this goes into the whole private credit thing as well, which is super interesting. I don't know if you studied that about right.
Yeah, yes, and there's merchant loans are based on your average transactional trackable money that comes to your business through the POS.
So the POS is a accounting that people can, it's your credit score, basically. The POS is the business's credit score. That's super interesting.
And the lifeline, right? It's the bloodstream right there. It's
cash, because all businesses are determined by their cash flow. Is that an accurate understanding?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And it's trackable cash because you can get a bank statement, but if you didn't deposit cash, that bank statement is going to look different than from your POS statement.
Wait, what's the significance of that?
So, a lot of small businesses, they charge $200 cash. They won't record them so they don't have to pay taxes or gross tax receipt. A lot of stuff, right? So Your bank account is going to be very different than that from your POS statement.
The POS system is also a way to track cash. Oh, interesting. So that's why a cash economy is still, because that's one of the most interesting things about being down in Argentina is that there are a lot of people who are not paying their taxes. A lot of small businesses are not paying their taxes for good reasons because it was so predatory down here. And so they're just like totally off the books, but the Argentine government doesn't have the capacity to go after in terms of taxation small businesses and individuals. So they're just not even considered as a way for the government to make money. So they're just like, it's not like the IRS where the IRS like has already like a history. You know, we're talking about finance and follow the money. It's like the IRS like just has a whole bunch of information on everyone because small businesses and individuals are so important to their tax base of the United States, which doesn't exist in Argentina. So this POS to bank account is really interesting because that means that like the POS must adapt. Oh, the delta between the bank statement and the POS, that's where you can figure out whether people are not declaring all the money that they're making for their business. Interesting.
Unless they have two books at the store, one for credit cards and one for cash.
And that's where the double entry bookkeeping is so important because it gets around what you just said, or it makes it, yeah. Can you say that better than me?
Yep. But as a lender, right, you can't, you cannot rely on the cash entry.
Yes. Interesting. Yeah. Interesting. As a lender, because then you're opening yourself up to risk, basically.
Correct. But
Oh, man, it's so interesting. Okay.
and a lot of people like in Argentina, Mexico included, for Mexico, for example, you can't deposit more than 10,000 pesos in your account.
Why not?
You need to tell them where they came from, even if you had a business. It's ridiculous. And then you have the fear, okay, I put him in there. What if I can't get him out?
Yeah, interesting. And that's exactly how the Argentines feel about the banks.
Correct. So now imagine the liability of being a business owner, right? Well, obviously there's scales of business owners, right? Once you have with dollars, yeah. But a lot of small business shops, they have a lot of cash. That's not good for criminals.
Oh, that's why small businesses are so good for money laundering, right? Yeah, interesting. Okay. Okay. So, so interesting. So I've been getting on this train. So we are now. I would say 2 years ago we transformed from the industrial age into the information age. So we're no longer in the industrial age. All the industrial age is important and really matters. And so I'm trying to track down what is money, what is finance in terms of the information age. And if we go back to the 1400s and the 1500s, that's when the Medicis came, and that's when when we have this double entry bookkeeping, this ability to have a large transnational organization that could do all these different things that we're talking about, but for a small sector of the population, which was like merchants and kings and all these different things. And that's where the keys to understanding the information age, because finance money is information, and this connection between digital and money and value, right? Because that's what it's money is information plus value, and you can do all these things. All the governments are trying to put a stamp on it, put like a hold on it, because they recognize it is really threatening. If money, and right now they're very successful. But just from my understanding of technology, my understanding of crypto, that in the next 10 to 20 years, technology just allows for infinite loopholes. And so there's just going to be more and more loopholes that arise because of just hordes, the Mongolian horde of technologists who are going and figuring out how to do things, like both black hat, white hat, and gray hat. Like there's just tons of people who are all thinking of like, how do we create loopholes? How do we stop the loopholes technologically? But the governments aren't going to be able to stop that. They're just gonna kind of like regulate and try to regulate. But then there's going to be loopholes, as we've been discussing. I don't have a point here. I'm just kind of rambling. But what do you think? What do you think about this information age that we're entering into? What are your plans to?
I believe we sit in very, I don't call them weird times. I want to call them exciting times. right? And I was born in '79, so I'm like the last year of Generation X. I still grew up with no phones, right? The brick phones. We still play outside, drink water from the hose, the whole 9 yards, right? But things have evolved very interesting. I'm half Korean, and I always been in my family. Judo was a must. As soon as you can walk, you already start, tossing people around, right? So over the years, we became black belts in Taekwondo, and then we did judo for many, many years, and kickboxing, the whole, but never for self defense. In my family, it was more like the Bushido life, where it was just discipline and principles of way of life. It was never to be offensive. Uh, it was more to create discipline and backbone. The yes or no, sir. I couldn't even go eat breakfast if I didn't like comb my hair, make my bed, brush my teeth. I wasn't allowed to eat breakfast yet. Right, I wasn't ready for the day. So did I have a tiger dad? Yes, we did. Right now, with that included, the upbringing in coming to Albuquerque, right? When I moved to Albuquerque, MMA was I was always been a fan of MMA, and it was just on its flight to what it is today. But Albuquerque, at one given time, they had 6 UFC champions in a current time frame. So Albuquerque was like the mecca for mixed martial arts. And the reason I bring that in is because when UFC started, it was the competition of what single martial art was the best. That's how it started. And and I relate that to business, right? And I'll tell you why. And then it'll make sense at the end. So at the now, if you're a good striker, it doesn't mean anything right now in UFC. If you're a good wrestler, also doesn't mean anything. If you're a good grappler, a takedown artist, you still doesn't mean anything. And so in business, being a good salesperson is not enough no more. Being a good accountant is not enough. Is not no more. Being a good tech guy or a big coder is not enough no more. Right? You have to be martial. You have to be a mixed martial artist in business. You have to be diligently enough, a little bit of everything. If not, you're going to expose some weaknesses. And then going back to the information stuff, we live in the era that we have every single resource in the tip of our hands, right? But people are not resourceful. They're just not.
And that's going to be a large divergence. What you just said, I want to enter into Polo, but before that, there's a large divergence between the people who are resourceful and those who aren't, and particularly with LLMs right now, the real defining. Because what do LLMs do? If we go out 5 to 10 years in the future, if I could be lacking in humility to try to go all the way out to 5 to 10 years from now for LLMs, like, it means that the people who are curious will just, like, it doesn't fulfill speaking with LLMs and understanding how to use LLMs does not fill the hole that curiosity. It just makes it larger. And so, like, if you're motivated by curiosity rather than motivated by the things that have won in the last 40 years, which I would say have been very much about sort of credentialism and all these different things, getting the credentials so that you can show to people that you do these things, and the lawyers and all these sort of regulated industries have built around this credentialism. Like, those things, I'm in a crazy personal situation right now where LLMs are just helping me navigate this situation. It could very much go legally really weird. And they're helping me navigate and build a strategy without talking to a lawyer. I'm going to talk to a lawyer as well, but like, by the time I talk to that lawyer, it will just be a checklist of what are these things that I need to in order to do. How should I approach this from your 20 years of that implicit knowledge, not like how is this a 20-hour conversation to figure out all these things.
And not just that story. It's also the type of conversation you're having with the LLM, because you're having a conversation with your LLMs about law or whatever it is. Like, by the time you talk to the attorney, if your attorney's not honestly asking the right questions either, they're gonna get a different answer, right? So in my case,
Yeah, interesting.
I got through like 5 firms of attorneys, right?
Yeah.
All of them want retainers. All of them. I guarantee you, they have no problem with that, right?
Yeah.
But I need speed and I need accuracy, right?
Interesting.
So,
Yeah.
so by the time they're responding, I already know what they were answering. I just wanted to be double checked with them, right?
Yeah. Great. I love it. Interesting.
Right. So I don't tell them I know it. I just want to make sure that they have my back and they're doing the exact same thing. We went to 2 patent attorneys and 2 compliance attorneys when it comes to store credit, right? Because they didn't know what they were asking. They didn't. I just couldn't. So I think it's going to expose a lot of people, and people people with curious minds like yourself, and I want to consider myself one. Right, we just became to the market.
Yeah. Yeah, the speed at which we can operate, and so it's creating a large divergence between people who don't have curiosity, and it's going to really just and everybody's very doomerist. There's a lot of doom right now, doom talk about AI, and I think it's very misplaced. But this divergence between these two groups of people is going to become really important, and I'm not sure what happens. Like I don't know. I'm not too pessimistic outside of like just the general pessimism of the way it goes back to the industrial age. I'm very pessimistic for the large amounts of people stuck in these systems and their emotional well-being as they navigate these systems. I think it's going to be emotionally very challenging. But I think in terms of our flourishing and our prosperity and like maintaining our level of abundance that we are now in and that the whole world is continuing to grow in, like I don't think it's going to change that much. But I think emotionally and spiritually, it's going to be really, really challenging for a lot of people outside.
I don't know if you ever grew up on a farm as a kid, right? But feeding chickens is very interesting, and you can have lessons on little things like that, right? So when you want the chickens to be out of your way, you crack some corn and throw it somewhere else, and over they all over there, they're out of your way, right? So all this fuss that social media produces, right? I believe it, and I call it crack corn. Just scalp corn. They're throwing it out there. Hey, goes everybody there, right? And they're planning their next move. But if you can't see that, then you're part of the eco.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah, it's crazy because in 2020 it was a really strong difficulty for me because I realized that there's nothing that can be done about that situation unless somebody's willing to see it, and not a lot of people want to see it, which is really challenging. But I don't know how much more can be gone into that, but besides just saying it, I would love to, for the last 10 to 15 minutes, start getting into Polo just for my own experience or my own. Can you explain more about your background in Polo and how you got into it?
Yeah. So some of my first job as a teenager, I worked in what I would call it a family restaurant because they're like my family to me, but they weren't family. I started working there, and I worked my way up all the way to a busboy to a restaurant manager, and potentially to a partner. But I had other interests in finance, so I didn't want to be a restaurateur. Now, but the owners, all 3 of them, I consider them like my godfathers, right? Because then they were like my first business mentors. They were my first mentors transition into a manager, right? And I call all 3 of them like padrinos, right? They're my godfathers, right? And in that process, he says, Tomas, you're very athletic, right? And I said, you should come play polo, right? And to me, it was like, what, ball? I buy shirts and so forth, and I see him in a pretty woman, but it was not in my realm, right? And I had a couple cousins that would sell cars, right? And they were always in the golf course, right? And I had a bad connection between golf and car salesman. And no offense to car salesman, right? But my cousins could have were a little out there. So I was like, I don't want to be seen as them. Right. So one day I had the opportunity, and my godfather's compadre, right? It was he's Gabriel Gracida from the Gracida family in Polo, right? A big name in Polo. It's like talking if there was a dynasty in basketball, it would be like Michael Jordan and siblings, right? In this case, the Gracida family in Polo. If you Google Gracida Polo, you'll find up, Carlos Memo, Gabriel, everybody, right? So
Wow.
he was in El Paso, and he said, "You should come try it." I said, "Why? Let me go try it." So I went there, and the first thing he said, "Tomas, like you have your legs are thick, but they're short, but you can reach and stuff. So you're gonna do great." So I got there. Obviously, I fell down the horse, and I'm being stubborn. I just wanted to try again. If I didn't fall like 50 times in a week, right, I didn't fall at all.
Yeah.
And but I'll tell you this, they never gave me a mallet. They never. It was just to learn how to ride first, right?
Orange.
But after the second week of not falling, but he said, "Okay, let's practice you holding the mallet." I was holding the mallet, right? And he taught me. He broke down the swing in 3 stages, right? And I hit the ball for the first time,
Mm.
and that was my crack, right? This
Yeah. And literally, there's a crack. There is a crack.
literally, and almost like, "Oh, you're screwed."
Yeah.
So then I was like, "Oh wow, this is so good." And Gabriel tells me, "Tomas, your eye hand coordination is great. You're gonna do fantastic. I think we should train at least 3 times a week, right? But you should do writing lessons every day, regardless of right teacher." So I said, "Okay, let's do it." And within 6 months, I was a little obsessed. I built a cage, right? I built a cage where I could put in my own saddle and I could just practice the swing. No horses needed yet, right?
Wait,
For
why did you need a cage?
it was like a batting cage, but it's for polo.
Is that where you built it yourself? Is that normal?
Yes, yeah. I had it built at the house, right? I had it built at the house. I'll send you pictures.
Yeah.
So it's like a batting cage. There's a steel mount. You put your saddle. You get on it, right? But it's I will say maybe like 15 by 15 with angles on the floor. So when you hit the ball, it hits the fence and it rolls back down to you. So you just practice and practice and practice, right? And I was like obsessed 2, 3 hours a day, every day, right? And on Saturdays, I would go and see their little chuckers, like little meets at a French ranch. And I was like, "Man, I want to get in there. I want to get in there. I know I could do it already." So one of the regulars, being a young kid. I think I was like 23, probably 22, right? Being a young kid, and I wanted to play. He goes, "You need to buy a horse," right? And 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 the auto polo players wanted to sell me a horse that they had, but they wanted to sell me like 15, 17-year-old horses, and it's you're great. The horses, so you get a perfect match, right? And this was it for right. So and then the white it's okay. So how much you want for your horse? And they're like, "Well, I think I'll give you a good deal, 22,000." Okay, what? So,
Yeah. So it's an expensive sport.
well, yes, but also they weren't really my friends at that point, right?
Yes.
So then one of the wranglers comes in and says, El Peticero, the guy that one of them says, "Tomas, they're overselling you those horses. Don't buy them." Right? I said, "Okay." Yeah, I kind of figured I wasn't going to pay no $22,000 for a 15, 17-year-old horse, right? And and then he goes, "Look, I just bought some horses. Like I buy all the horses from the racetrack. They're off thoroughbreds, right?"
Wait. Okay, keep on going. I got a question for you later.
So he told me they're great horses, great lineage, right? They got good bloodlines. They're just not fast enough for racing.
Oh, perfect. I mean,
Right? It's a perfect. So, and I need I need a big horse. I'm 6 foot, 240 pounds, right? I'm walking more like 260 right now, but I said I need a big horse, right? And with a lot of stamina, right? And he goes, "A thoroughbred would do great." I said, "Okay, fantastic." He goes, "I buy them for $900, $2,000." No,
what year was this? What year was this?
it was in 2003,
Okay.
right? And then I was like, $800, $1,200. Like, yeah, they're good horses. They have nothing to do with them. They can't do nothing with them because they don't race. They're not fast enough. And if they're not females, they're not gonna breed them. Right? I said, "Okay." So then I said, typical rookie. I said, "Well, I like gray horses." So he goes, I got the perfect one for you. Right? And what I didn't know is that this, you know, friend Like, I tried to sell that horse to every polo player there already, and everybody said, "No, you're crazy. It's an ugly horse. It looks like a mule." Blah 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 blah. And they did it, but I liked it. Like, I didn't know that yet. So I go in there and I look at her, and I'm like, "Oh, she's beautiful. She looks great." Hey, and always, obviously, being a rookie, I was buying the horse by its looks. But so then I said, "Okay, I'll buy it. Okay, how much do you want?" And go 1,500. Okay, look, 1,500. But now I'm gonna train the horse. I'm gonna train you and the horse. Okay,
Cool.
that was dangerous.
Oh, wait, because it's a thoroughbred?
B, because I wasn't an expert riding yet, right? And the horse didn't have a rein yet, right? I was just racing and turning left, right? So and it wouldn't stop. It was dangerous, but right, I didn't know better. So I would just go literally, right? And like a month and a half afterwards, I was like, if this horse does not let me on honor and go with, I'm gonna just sell her or give it away, do something. And I told Lencho the wrangler in front of the horse, and it's all like the horse knew. So I said to the horse, she mellowed out, like she said, okay, but I got on the horse, she didn't buck. Like, okay, so let's ride. And they left, they ride, and she said, okay, I'm yours.
Wow.
After that, that horse made me look like Adolfo Cambiaso, the Korean version. That horse was a manly horse. So then I was able to do a half a man or two chuckers out of four chucker meet, right? And I, pardon my French, I would go kick their ass on all those guys. That horse made me look great. And those 2-3 hours, every day working on that cage, it was just amazing.
Man.
So I loved it. Afterwards, they had their own little tournaments, right? The only bad thing is that El Paso is very elitist because of Mexico, right? And the why? Yeah.
Wait, what part of elitism?
You play polo, you shouldn't be talking to your wrangler, and you should.
Oh, interesting. Oh, interesting. So there's within polo, there's a strong division, basically.
Yeah, but look, in the U.S., I've seen a lot of patrons, seat their own, seat their own saddle, do everything. You go to Mexico, if you do that, you're seen down upon, like, oh, what's wrong with this guy, right? That's the thing that I don't like, because life tends to give a lot of girls there, right? And I just don't like it, right?
Yeah.
So I would go and we would have fun, but I said, let's go to this tournament, let's go to that tournament, and they never wanted to go anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And it was like, if they don't officially send me a letter with a bottle of champagne, I'm not gonna go anywhere. I'm like, oh, you guys are old and like, So I say, you know what? I'm making my own team, right? So I invited young friends. I was like, look, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just gonna go have fun. If we lose, we lose, but we're gonna go have fun, and we did. And then we started traveling. Then we started getting invitations to go play, and that's how I ended up in Albuquerque. Is we used to be in Santa Fe every summer, right? And it was called the Santa Fe Horse Polo Park, right? And we used to come to Clay, and it was very fun. Weekends were fun. The tournaments were fun. And the first year I moved to Albuquerque, that was the first year they closed down.
Oh no! So in Albuquerque, or in Albuquerque and Santa Fe?
There was only Polo just in Santa Fe.
Oh, okay. So Santa Fe closed down, and it still doesn't exist. You can't play polo anymore.
No, and you know what? There's also another division of elitism where there's a lot of foxtrotters or not foxtrotters, teeth guys, right?
Yep.
They did not like polo players,
Yeah.
and polo players did not like fox hunters. So the polo grounds bowed down, and it got purchased by fox hunters, and they did not allow polo players to go there.
Wait. Fox hunters with horses.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's a whole other thing. Okay, so you can't play polo anymore.
No, so now we like I moved to New Mexico because it was polo fair, it was fun, and then I moved the first year. Now I have to go back to El Paso to go play.
Okay, so in El Paso, it's still big. You can still play.
It died down for a little bit. It died down for a little bit when the insecurity in Mexico, violence were crossing over. Like, cause people there have money, so it died down a little bit, but then it's resurging again. But what it really needed is a new generation of polo players, where it's not just about how much money I have; it's more about the horse relationship. Let's have some fun. Oh, this guy's green. Let's help him get better. Let's play with them. Let's give him some game. Right? Yeah. Not just go. It's all like a dojo. I go in there. You're a newbie. You're not gonna kick his ass, right? Yeah. You want him to come back, and that's really what it needs, right? But we were traveling so much to go play. On my little three buddies that all of us had like two horses each, enough to play a 0-2 handicap goal, right? Tournament, but we were having so much fun that we created our own little team, and we call it Chinaco Polo team because we were all technically Mexicans. And we were going over there. But I tell you this, some of my best friends today they play polo. My doctor, I met him, playing polo. It does really open the world for you. Now, a couple of interesting things in the polo realm here in New Mexico was the NMSU in Las Cruces. They had a collegiate team. And they would Boston play with us all the time. Albuquerque does not have it. Santa Fe does not have it. Right? Okay. It was Las Cruces for crying out loud, right?
Oh, interesting.
And I talked to my godfather and I said, hey, why don't we just open a polo field ourselves in New Mexico? Right? It says New Mexico is horse friendly. Right? Yeah. I live in Corrales, so it's the horse capital of New Mexico. Right? So we can definitely do something there. And I tried hard, actually. I talked to a lot of tribes, casinos. They have a lab. I said, you can have a really nice polo field here, do big opens, right? People come to New Mexico, they stay at the resort, you can do high-end limit, they can gamble, they can do this stuff. And they would say, none of them said yes. They were like, no. We're not interested. Right? So I said, look, if you build a field, I'll work with UNM and see if they can do a collegiate team and they can come and train here. And now UNM will have a Lobos polo team. That'll be great. Right? Yeah. Nope, I couldn't do it. Nobody would be interested in it. I was like, all right, you guys stay in New Mexico. I'll go play somewhere else.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so interesting. So many layers. So we got about 5 minutes left. There was something. Well, let's talk about horses. Let's talk about the relationship with the horse. Like what is going on between it's my favorite sport because it involves this whole other animal, and the animal you trust with your life, and they are prey animals, so they're very skittish and they pick up on any emotion that passes through you. They are automatically feeling it, and so it's like this really interesting relationship. Can you talk more about your learnings over the past 20 to 30 years about that relationship between the horse and the rider?
When I first started playing, I had my horses at the ranch of somebody else's ranch, and I paid boarding and the whole thing. Somebody else walked them, but it didn't. I would see the horse like only when I go and train, and his connection was really with the wrangler, right? And I said, closer to me. Right? And a lot of people like that. A lot of people don't like it. I didn't like it afterwards. So as soon as I moved to Albuquerque, I said, we need a bigger house. We need stalls in the house. I'm going to have my horses there. Right? Let's look for some land. And that's how we ended up in Corrales. But it was different because I would feed him every day. Right? And that relationship, once they start following you around, as soon as they see you, smell you, they start following you around. Like they're a little companion. Right?
Yeah, interesting.
My horses, they love to get hugs, right? It's a very weird, it's not like a dog. It's a very different relationship, right? Yeah. And
so how is it different than a dog?
So after, for example, after we practice and they're sweating and they're vibrating and that frequency is there, I take them off, I wash them down, right? And that point is just a bond where like, we got shit done today, right? Like,
yeah, I felt that. See. Yeah, because it's not like a dog where it's like a dog is your companion. A horse is like this thing that could destroy you if it did something wrong, basically. So that and particularly with polo, it's so fun because they get into the game on Saturday.
Yeah.
and Saturday we were playing, and then it was me, my friend, and then on the opposite team there's somebody else who knew how to play a little bit, knew how to play. We know how to hit the ball, we know how to ride a little bit. Everyone else was a complete beginner, and so we play 4-on-4 with like 5 or 6 total beginners. And then the ball is out there, and so like because it's all the rest of the beginners, usually we play with other people who completely destroy us. And so I was a beginner, or I was able to ride around the beginners and like go to the ball before they got there. And so I hit the ball, and then my horse just starts going like it wants to win, basically. And all of a sudden it was just like, oh, well, okay, wow. And I managed, because previous till Saturday, I could only hit the ball when I'm just walking with the horse. But something clicked, and all of a sudden, now I could trot. And so I trotted, and it went after it, and I couldn't control it, and I still hit the ball. So yeah, it was
Beautiful. It's a euphoric feeling, right?
totally addictive. I'm totally hooked now.
Have you done back shots yet?
Yes, done the back shots and around the neck as well.
Make shot. Those are beautiful. Are you lighting thoroughbreds or the team Polo?
Okay, that's another question. So I don't know. I don't know is the answer, but thorough. I ran into an Argentine who is part of the local hippodromo, and I think he was like the guy who does the horses there. And he was telling me all about thoroughbreds. Do thoroughbreds make good polo horses?
In my experience, they do great. Now, with my experience, right? Some people don't like them because they have too much stamina, right? A lot of people
Would that be a problem if they had too much stamina?
and they don't want to go too fast. They want to be a little bit
more.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people play with quarter horses. Like, I don't like them, right? Because I'm too heavy, right? And they get tired pretty quickly for a while. But at the same time, they're too round, and they start flipping around, and you're gonna fall down. I don't like them. I don't like to play polo with quarter horses, and they blend them. They do like a mixture of both, and they call them appendix. Like I've seen them. They're not bad. I just feel more comfortable on a big thoroughbred.
So interesting. I'm gonna go do a bunch of research on all those things later. Thank you so much for coming on the show. How can people find out more about you and TurnOn Technologies?
Well, they can go to LinkedIn, TurnOn Technologies or Tommy Alvarez or X, LinkedIn. I'm pretty easy to find. The big Korean or speak Spanish.
Thank you so much.
Thank you much.